or basically, what role can women play in the civil society groups post-conflict peace building?
First, I want to go back to the first one.
Okay.
I actually would like the title of the symposium to be Changing Diplomacy because of the impact of women. Because diplomacy is changing now, and the role of women is increasing. And I think it's worth making note of the UN and the United Nations that Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security passed in 2000, which said it's women and children who are most affected by violence and conflict, and they also they must be included in the negotiations and the resolution of conflict and implementation. Well, that was done in some nations, but not in others, like the United States, for example. And so then Resolution 1889 was passed, which put more teeth into it. That was just passed about 6 months ago, saying that nations, will be accountable and will be made public if they're bringing women to negotiations. So there's a universal, there's a push for this. And for me, it started personally when I was at a meeting. Somebody found out, it wasn't even a meeting, it was a social gathering, and somebody found out that I had an organization for women, and it was a general at that point in Afghanistan, one of the very top generals, took me by the elbow and took me aside and said, I have to talk to you because we're never going to have peace in Afghanistan until the women are involved. We're never going to have peace anywhere until the women are involved. So even in the military, sometimes a little bit, there's a growing awareness of this. And I think another thing that's really increased it actually is the internet, because the internet is completely feminine. It's inclusive, it's egalitarian, it's about poetry and about art and about photographs. All these things are very feminine. So you have something seeping into a global consciousness here of looking at things more holistically and less linearly and more inclusively rather than hierarchically. So all these things are working together to make changes.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to ask Ms. Allen a question. Okay. While it's true that more than 75% of parliaments worldwide are more than 3/4 male, in recent years, some high-powered female heads of state have bucked the trend. What factors have influenced this?
Okay, I will address that, but I did want to speak a little bit about what was said.
Okay.
Particularly because our role as vocalists has been one to build a thread in a community through music. And I believe that music being a creative art form that transcends all cultures, ages, peoples, particularly women, is a thread that we've seen be an element of peace when we travel. What we've done through that, we have an organization called the Paradise Project, which we started about 10 years ago. And we visit different nations and we connect with women in those nations through churches, political groups, schools, universities, and we see to the needs that are most pressing in those areas. For instance, doing a 7-nation tour this year. We're going into Russia. We're starting with Russia and the orphanages there, because there's so many homeless there. Romania, there was homeless in Romania, in South America. And I want to talk with you about the trafficking. But we're finding that women, because of, I call it theology, they get on their knees and they pray. They wash their hands and they get right in and they do what needs to be done. We're seeing that women change things, and that's what we're about. And I believe that we're enough. When we look at Proverbs, and I think about the Bible, really, you go to Esther, Jael, and some of the most powerful women in the Bible, they were the course changers. And there is a place for women. We're the influencers. So I think that we have that commitment, we have that responsibility, but it does start with women. We are the changers of the world. We are the peacemakers, because it's about our children. It's about the generations before us and the generations behind us. You also mentioned Eleanor Roosevelt. Eleanor Roosevelt is very special to me because my grandmother, her name was Weichel Williams. She traveled with Eleanor Roosevelt when she was a student like you, and with Mary Bethune to raise funds for building Bethune College. But the stories that she has that they ran into in their travels were not for their prayer work and their tenacity to bring peace through racism and through all kinds of rigors. We wouldn't have Bethune College. We wouldn't necessarily be here. How we are, I believe, the changers in the world. And it's not just music, but it's also commitments in the professions that we walk in. We cover all of them. We have to utilize that, be aware of it, and attend to it, particularly now.
Wow. Thank you. Okay. Now to this side. Okay. While it's true that more than 75% of parliaments worldwide are more than 3/4 males, in recent years, some high-powered female heads of states have bucked the trend. What factors have influenced this, you think, Dr. Sephocle?
There are several factors that have influenced the increase in women participation in politics. It has to do with education. The number one factor is education. More and more women are educated. There are countries, in fact, where you find that more women, a larger percentage of women and a percentage of men are educated. That is the case, for example, of Lesotho. Okay? And I could cite many other countries where it is a trend, and to the point that sometimes the lawmakers are talking about putting in place laws that will help the male boys to increase their participation in education so that they could attain in the future those posts. So in general, there is a trend towards educating women. It's not happening everywhere. It's not happening in Afghanistan, for example. And you notice that there is a correlation between education and political participation. In countries where women are more educated, you find that there is a larger participation of women in politics. Overall, on the planet, that if you were to aggregate all the countries together, you would find out that there is a 17% only of women participation in politics. So it's not a great deal, it's not a lot, 17%. There are countries such as Sweden and Norway where you have a 42% women participation in politics. In other words, 42% women in the chambers, the Senate and the House of Representatives, for example. And there are other countries where you don't even have any woman participation at all. Anyone could guess where we rate in the United States in terms of women participation in politics? Well, out of 192 countries, we are number 61 in women participation. So we are right there in the middle range because we have a 17% women participation in political office in the United States, which is on par with many countries from the quote-unquote third world, the quote-unquote developed world, quote-unquote developing world. Okay? So we are way behind in terms of the industrialized countries. Many countries have increased right away their women participation after a conflict. The country that happens to have the largest number of women in parliament is, guess which country? Rwanda. Well, now everyone knows that. Okay, it's Rwanda. Rwanda has a 50% women participation in politics.
Okay, so Dr. Sephocle, I have a question. How is literacy and education tied into women's political participation? Because a lot of people would assume that there are more women educated in the U.S., but we're number 61 when it comes to women's participation.
Okay, so you are asking me to find out to tell you about
Now,
the other factors.
Like how is
besides
literacy and education tied into women's political participation?
As I was saying, literacy is only one factor, and there are other mitigating factors. There is a political climate that doesn't encourage women to participate in politics, and there is also the women factor. Do women encourage or vote for other women? In some countries they do, in others they don't.
Okay, Nankwenya, we have a question for you. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter says that women have played a pivotal role in the uprisings in the Middle East, including Tunisia and Egypt, as well as ongoing revolution in Libya that has demanded change for democracy and equal rights. Is this an example of new female empowerment or something more?
Just the uprisings in North Africa.
Is it feminism? Is it a new feminism? Is it both? What are your thoughts?
I think that it shows that there's been a lot of growth in terms of women's rights and women's participation in political activities. However, I think that, as Dr. Sephocle mentioned, there's still a lot of other obstacles of keeping women from getting to the deciding table, I think. I recently went to the Brussels Forum, and it's a policy meeting of just about transatlantic issues between Europe and the United States. But there were very few women, and very few women of color as well. So I think that, yes, it shows that there's a new uprising of women empowerment, but I think when you get to the deciding table in politics or among heads of states, women are not represented as well as they should be.
Thank you. Okay, Jonathan. What role can women play in the civil society groups with post-conflict peace building?
I think it's important, like other panelists mentioned, that women are participating within the decision-making process, but also sort of post, for instance, in North Africa and the Middle East, after these revolutions, I guess, run their course and a new government is in place, what sort of I think is another question I'm posing to the panel. What sort of, as new governments are established, as new regimes come into power, what should the priority be of these new people in power to legitimize women's participation, to encourage women's participation, education? I think I want to pose that to the rest of the panel.
And to what Jonathan just said, I think that a lot of times that is an issue because politicians will consider high politics and low politics. And I think that many issues that women represent, or whether it be about rape or trafficking or anything like that, that's not really considered in the high politics scheme. And that's not always put on the table when you have new governments coming out.
I think there's, I concur. I was just at another panel discussion. I wasn't on the panel, but they were talking about the soft representation and the harder representation in governments. And the ministers of social welfare or children's and gender rights were usually women in a cabinet. Very few women are given the Minister of Defense, the Minister of the Treasury, these hard issues. I don't mean hard in the fact that they're hard, difficult, but those are the power positions, and very few women, even in this age of recognition of women in parliament or in cabinets, very few women are part of the power elite within governments. Very few women are prime ministers, and I think that Liberia is still a phenomenon. There are no other women presidents of countries. And so in this day and age, it's still amazing how far women have not come, rather than have come in terms of running this world, or that are out there in the front as those who are running the world. And I don't think that there should be any gender difference, but there still are not enough voices from women in terms of being in front as the leadership.
I kind of want to turn the conversation a little bit differently for Patricia and Ms. Allen. While it's true that more than 75% of parliaments worldwide are more than 3/4 male, in recent years, some high-powered female heads of states have bucked the trend. What factors have influenced this?
What factors have created it so that there are heads of state now that are women? Well, a great many of those are in the Northern European nations, so I think we might look at that. I think it's a question of education, might be male security. I have a lot of personal theories about how men hold on to power because of their own ego needs. I call it, how many trees have you pissed on today? That's a little diversion. I think that there is a growing, I just think it's many, many things. I don't know if there's one thing that shoots through. I think it's education. I think it's experience. I think it depends on the sort of mental set of the demographics. Some of these women, of course, had husbands who were in those positions, like in Argentina with Krishna. So they have sort of an entree. I just think it's a process where you just keep working at it, and 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 accept that sometimes it sort of goes down, and sometimes it goes up, and you try to capitalize on when it gets better. And I'm seeing some. I want to say that it's lovely to see as many men in the audience as there are, and it's great to see you shaking your heads. Yes, and supporting us.
I agree with you. I think it comes through necessity too, I believe, and then also through struggle and through not giving up. Women have an extra. We have 9 lives, and we wear the hat that's necessary for the situation. So we will do what's necessary for the situation.
Okay, I would like to open it up to the audience. Anyone has a question?
Okay, I think I can project. No? I think. Okay, I want to make it clear that Jamaica has had not only a female president, she was just replaced by a male again, but we have a female ambassador too, and it goes back to Nanny of the Maroons. Don't forget that, and we're just an island, a dot on the map. Hello. Okay, that's the first thing. Now let's see who in the audience lives in the dorm, or who knows anything about Mary McLeod Bethune, female activist, right? Was it education, right? Okay. Let's go to Slow Hall. Slow Hall. Anybody knows about Slow Hall? Heard of Slow Hall? Lucy Dick Slow, right? because we have to know our history right here. But you notice they named the dorms after the females, but the other buildings that possess the big great power after the males, am I right? Howard Hall, down in the valley, the Biology Building, Locke, philosopher Frederick Douglass, and I love Frederick. He learned to read from a woman too. Hello. Okay, anyway. Now we have Slow Bethune. Which one said ain't I a woman? That's your Sojourner Truth. She said ain't I a woman because she had to try to figure out all that was going on and why were we being bastardized or victimized because we're women. But the times are changing, and I think the issue is that the thinking is changing on both the part of the men and the women. Now my question to you guys, I didn't forget you, is what are the solutions that we can make out of this? Because Dr. Sephocle, I love you. You're brilliant, and I always celebrate my females because sometimes the guys don't do it. Or if they do it, we say they're abusing us and we yell the R word, the four-letter word, yes. So you're a brilliant woman, speaker of many languages, and thank you for this opportunity. But after this, where do we go? Can we try to develop some kind of networking organism or whatever it's called, organization, so that we can continue this outside of here, because there's so many brilliant people and there's so many resources. Thank you.
Yes, Mr.
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Liu from the World Harmony Foundation. I'm also president of Congress Web TV, which we partner with the Congress. And I'm here for two reasons. One is on behalf of one of the speakers, Bunny Doobie, because she just come back from China last night and she can't catch because she's very sick. And she want me to bring a message to you. Number one, as a woman, she's very, very ambitious, want to make the young woman here to be leader. Which you just mentioned that it's very short of government or Congress has women leader. So I have a question before I continue. All these women go here. Is any one of you dreaming to be president? Raise your hand. Okay, so I see a lot of boys dreaming to be president. So that's why we are going to implementation. It's not just talking. Women always say, we should do this, we should do this, but women waiting for men to give. No. What we should do is action. That's why we are going to do the program, Future Leadership Program, start from this summer. So while we're hoping working with your woman ambassador, we start woman future leader to join us. So we're going to have this conference in the United Nations, August, start from the 2 to 5, and we are doing about 1,000 students from different countries, all the smart future leader. We imitate the United Nations, we imitate the Congress, we imitate the correspondent, we imitate the different kind of style. So also they come here, hoping we can have another event with your college. So I think number one, Bonnie wanted me to tell us women cannot wait. We have the action start from the youth. Okay. Number two, she feel that nowadays so many war happen because men. Naturally, men like fighting. So if more women become president, this war will be more peace. Right? So I agree. I'm a man. I totally agree. Because we are World Harmony Foundation. We promote harmony between human being and nature. We promote harmony between people and people. We promote harmony between family. We promote harmony between government and people. And we promote the harmony between religions. We promote the harmony between our own self, which is healthy. So we have a 7 mission of harmony. But we believe in woman is the best media to make harmony. So in our language, is peace, the foundation of the peace is harmony. the foundation of harmony is communication. Best communication media is a woman. So that's okay. So that's the message we bring up from our organization. And hopefully we can really set up the real program to training youth since from kindergarten to be future leader. Then to come the summertime to exchange all these news, all this message. Just now the youth people talking about Facebook, the internet. Internet is such growing faster, but it's unfair that people only thinking African is short of food, hungry. But they forget African also short of internet, short of computer. So with developing country, every youth share, they have technology, internet, but Africa don't have it. So your country growing, when the developing country growing faster and faster, the African country still poor because what? They don't have the information. So that's why we have another program in China. We're asking a lot of business people to donate computer. So we donate this computer to give to Africa. So that your kid can share the information with all these developing countries. So that's another help. So we're hoping all of you can join us to bring your idea and we can see each other in August. Thank you.
If students are interested, what website do they go to? If students are interested in going, being a part of your program, how do they sign up?
We have our charity website, World Harmony Foundation. We are under United Nations Environment Program, UNEP. We are NGO of UNEP. Foundation.org. Or you just Google the Harmony Bell, because we made Harmony Bell, first Harmony Bell in the world in UN 60s, and Kofi Annan is the first one reading Harmony Bell, and GA President, second one, and head of state, Timor-Leste, Vice President, all read the bell. And a lot of congressmen, Democrat, and both parties read the Harmony Bell. So the Harmony Bell is our symbol for harmony. So we are going to bring harmony travel all over the world to promote peace, harmony, green, and also education and leadership. Thank you. And our second website is our Congress TV. We hope all you young people can join us as a youth correspondent to bring, you can interview your teacher, professor, Congress, your neighborhood talking about today. So then you can send, just like you can send to us, we can adopt your report and give you credit. So you can interview us and create a special program. This program called Ask Congress. This is a 41 years program in the Congress, but now it become internet TV. So you can go to www.congresswtv.org.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now we're going to introduce, we have an award for a special guest, and I'm going to introduce her daughter, who's going to introduce her mom. Now, Miss Julie Allen I've known her for, since I've been in college, and one thing I can say is she's genuinely intelligent and smart, and she's basically been a great sister keeper, and I appreciate you, so thank you.
While Mrs. Julie Allen makes her way to the stage, we are going to ask the students who are sitting in the back to come to the front. Please come to the front. That shows already leadership when you come to the front.
It takes one to know one to know. And I want to present this award to my mother, Kim Sledge Allen. Basically for her outreach, her international outreach. And thank you for being here.
Oh, but I have to add something to that. How many, no, this is we need a more elaborate introduction.
Yeah.
How many of you know the song, We Are Family? I have all my sisters. I don't know how to sing, but this is the singer who sings, We Are Family. That's Sister Sledge. She knows her as mom, and this is Sister Sledge. This is one of the sisters from the trio, the Sister Sledge trio. And she has been doing a tremendous amount of work internationally, doing a lot of outreach internationally, outreach to young women, outreach in the area of education, and we are very proud to have with us, and a big round of applause for Miss Kim Sledge.
And furthermore, the Allen family, the Sledge family will be going on Oprah very soon. So, yeah, on the last show. So. If you want to say a few words and sing for us.
Yay!
We are family. I got all my sisters and my brothers. Well, of course, indeed it is an honor to be here. And I would do anything for my daughter anyway. But absolutely, it's an honor to be here. We are women and men of many different faiths, and with all due respect to that, it's always a privilege to see how God has all made us fearfully and very wonderfully. We are at a time where I always go to the Bible and I quote Esther and her work that God had prepared for her, and it was for such a time as this. And all of us have a calling, particularly right now, for such a time as this, in this tumultuous age, and we are seeing nations changing daily. We have a responsibility. Take the responsibility. Seek out what your gift is. Give it generously. Shape, mold, encourage, reconcile, and restore. I praise God that as women, we have the privilege of birthing generations, but we don't do it alone. Take the opportunity, seize it, and seize it daily. And last, I have a very dear friend who we grew up with the very first time we visited Japan. Her name is Nori, and we named, my daughter named her daughter after Nori. We were very, very young, I think I was about 13 when we first visited Japan, and we've kept in touch since that time. She's been back and forth, we've been back and forth. But when the news came of what happened there, the devastating news, Nori's been giving me an account practically daily about what's going on. And one thing she said is that the women in the small villages have come together and they're feeding each other, they're working with each other, their husbands are away, and they're living without heat, they're living without food, they're living without what we have every day, water, but they're living with hope, and they're living with unity, they're preserving the nation and the generations. And we have so much. Surely we can do the same. And it does start with peace. Thank you so much.
And we have one last question that you wanted to ask the young.
Hello everyone, my name is Alicia Davis. I'm a graduating senior. I first want to say I really appreciate this panel discussion because it was very moving for myself personally. My question, I guess, is, well, first let me say I'm an anthropology major. Before coming to Howard, I knew what my major was going to be. I knew I wanted to do anthropology. And as an anthropologist, you know, we look at things from a bottom-up approach. All the careers that I've considered and thought about have always kind of been like the background careers, I guess, you know, the ones dealing with individuals on a personal level. So my question for you is, for the individuals who, or the young women who are now finding that, hey, I want to get involved politically, how would you address, or what are your ideas to encourage young women to want to be involved and not just kind of hear about things and know and have the knowledge of international things going on, but what do you do to necessarily say, hey, this is what you do, this is how you go about it, this is why you should do it, especially for my generation, because I'm about to graduate, however, but I still haven't chosen exactly what I want to do. So, yeah, what are your ideas on how addressing that situation for us?
All of you.
I think you really have to go deep inside and see what your heart responds to. I mean, is your heart responding to children? Is it responding to famine? Is it responding to issues of sexual violence? Where is that? Just sit with that, meditate with that, and feel it, try out different things, see where your heart moves. And then once you've done that, you put your head along with that. And you'll find your way. Just always go to what is your heart telling you.
Growing up as a African American, a black woman, girl in New York City, the role models that we had were things that shaped my decisions about what I wanted to do with my life. First of all, I had parents who were very generous in terms of letting me try a number of things that I thought I was interested in, art and drawing and then fashion or whatever, and they were very patient with me. But one thing that I think had a significant impact on my life was when I was in college in New York City, I wanted to be with a group of women, young women who were in college. And the most impactful thing happened was to have a chance to meet Jean Noble, who was then just becoming president of the Deltas, and to have people around me like Dorothy Height and Patricia Roberts, and then later Patricia Roberts Harris. And they were so impactful in terms of what I aspired to be. They were women on the move, and that's what I wanted to do. And to be able to grasp even a little bit of their talents and their knowledge and their courage. And to know that they had come also from a long line of women, African women with whom African American women with whom I could identify, like Mary McLeod Bethune and Mary Church Terrell, and so many women who were so forceful and dynamic, speaking out for, in the time of slavery, up until the time of civil rights, etc. So that's how I got an inspiration as to what I wanted to try and model my life after. And of course I was interested in international affairs, and so at the time of the 60s, there were so many countries in Africa who were becoming independent. And I was elated to be in New York, working in little jobs that had to do with the United Nations and meeting African diplomats. And I have never stopped my love for Africa and also my love for working with women and children, especially girls.
Thank you, Ambassador Lawrence. We will give a big round of applause to this panel.